This video is going to be about the topic of data types, and the aim of this is to address 3.1.1 of the GCSE Computer Science COMP2 syllabus, and we're aiming to understand the different data types available to them, as in the student. As a minimum, students should know about integer, Boolean, real, character, and string data types and how these are represented in the programming languages they are using. So we're using Code Sculptor, which is an online IDE which allows me to write Python in the browser. So if I have a short computer program like this, I'll have a number of variables, each with a name that describes what's inside each variable. And each of these variables has a different data type. Well, these two are the same. So start off with the first data type, which is string. Okay, I can spot these two things are a string because we have quotes around it, and this is the same in most languages as far as I'm aware, and also in pseudocode. You will always be able to spot a string because it will have these characters representing the syntax that shows the start and the end of the data. So what is a string? A string is a sequence of characters. Okay, so the characters aren't always letters, so I can have a string that looks like this, and all that has got in it is two tabs and a number of spaces. So these are white space characters. These are things you can't see. I could also confusingly have a string that's made up of numbers, or I can have a string that's made up of special characters. So anything that you can do on the keyboard can form a string. So in this program, I have one string, which is the name, and this is using single quotes, and the address using double quotes. The one thing you have to remember is that the quotes must match. So if you start with single, you must end with single. Otherwise, the program isn't going to do what you want it to do. Okay, this next type of data is an integer. So in this program, I'm storing an age, which is the value is 77. And what an integer is any whole number, positive, number, any whole number, positive or negative. Okay. There's not much to know about that. So an integer, you don't use any quotes, and it's just represented like this. So this next data type we're looking at, and this one is a Boolean. Okay, so a Boolean is a very useful data type, and it's also the most simple. So what Boolean does is simply stores a state of either true or false. Okay, so in this program, my Boolean variable is called isEmployed, and it's currently assigned the value of true. And this is kind of suggesting that the person that this code is representing currently is employed. So this last data type I'm going to talk about is an array, but in this language it's actually referred to as a list. And what an array can do is store multiple items in a single variable. So confusingly, in Python, arrays can actually store multiple items of different data types. So I don't know why you'd necessarily want to do that. And also in Python, lists are actually open-ended. So I can add new things, I can resize the array, I can chop it up. But generally speaking, arrays have a fixed number of items. And you won't see things like children.append. So for example, my person has another child, so we might need to append a new child to their list of children. So Dave. You won't see this in pseudocode, so you don't have to worry about things like this in the COMP2 exam paper module. So what have I missed out? So there's a few other data types you need to know about. So we have covered so far integer, string, and Boolean, but we haven't really talked about real and character. We've also added on array, which is sometimes considered a data structure rather than a data type. But one we're going to talk about is real, which is actually referred to as a float in Python. And all a float is a decimal number. So for example, if I wanted to represent something like bank account, I would probably use a float data type because I'm going to need something. I'm going to need more depth than a whole number can provide. So, for example, if Bob currently has £960 and 88 pence in his bank account, I would use the float data type to represent that. And then the last one we're going to talk about is character. So again, this isn't something that is used in Python if I want to do a character. So I might say first initial, and Bob's first initial is B, but technically this is just a string. And this is because Python doesn't actually use the character data type. But whereas if I was programming in Java, that would exist and it'd be the same thing. But when assigning the character, I'd just represent it with single quotes rather than double. But we're not going to worry about Java. We're only going to worry about Python. And funnily enough, so far in the AQA GCSE papers, we haven't actually met any questions about characters. But one thing that is really important to remember is that a string is a sequence of characters, as I mentioned so far. So what we've been doing in this video is helping you to understand the different data types available to a programmer. So you now should know the purpose and when to use an integer, a Boolean, a real or a floating point number, float in Python, a character, and a string.